Okay, good evening, everybody. Uh, I'm going to start the seminar here, and it's a pleasure for you to join with you with this seminar in history. And I'm just thanking that Eduzon Institute, especially Hilmi Hassan sir, for giving me such an opportunity for doing a seminar like this for you students. So I have sent you two tudes. Those were the tudes that I have prepared for the last year. But there are some things that we can take, and I just have taken from that the questions. And here I'm not going to complete everything. That means all the parts of these two tudes. But I'm just going to question paper, and in question paper, the Sri Lankan history part, especially two questions we'll be discussing here. So you know that in the question paper in Sri Lankan history part, we have 6 questions, and you have to answer 4 questions out of these 6 questions. So then, out of these 6 questions, 2 questions we will be discussing, and I'm just going to give you what are the possible questions that that is given for the exam, and even that what are the area giving you a short note regarding 2 lessons, the second and third lessons of grade 10. They are why I have selected those 2 lessons, because they are the easiest as well as the easiest 2 questions that you have to do in the exam. So because of that, given my information here, so I'm just doing this one using a slideshow. In the slide on your right hand top corner, I have mentioned the tude and the page. So like a short note tude. So when it is mentioned like the short note tude, page number 4. So you have to refer short note tude, page number 4. When I refer that, when I am giving as question tude, so you have to take the question tude. Even I'm informing you how you have to do it. So even that in my slideshow, the red color print is that the things that you have to write in the blanks, and the black color things are the things that I have given in the tude. So because of that, they are the things that you have to write in the tude. So first we will be starting with the short note tude, the page number 4 we are starting. So you just can turn to page number 4, and I'm just introducing you some of the possible questions that may come, and even I'm giving the answers. So answers I have given you to fill in the blanks. So just you have to fill the blanks. So the main thing is here we are discussing, and that discussion is the main thing. So fill in the blanks we can do with seeing the slideshow. So I think you got it and understood what we have to do. I think now you can see my screen. So if there's any question, like you can just send me through the messages, then I will show the messages, and I will see the messages, and then I will be giving answers, but don't send at every time. So like when we are discussing questions, like you can send me some of the areas where you are not aware of, as well as where it's not clear, like, so then I can give, even at the end of the session, we can just discuss some of the questions that you have. So I'm just going to start from the beginning. The second lesson I'm just going to start, that is regarding the ancient settlements. So you just can take the short note tude, and you just turn to page number 4 in that tude. So I'm just going to go for the slideshow now. Okay. Okay, right. So the lesson is ancient settlements. So here we will be discussing how Sri Lanka was settled and what were the ages that we have to be keen on regarding our evolution of the humankind in Sri Lanka. So now see the prehistoric era. So what is the prehistoric era? So prehistoric era we can divide into two times like Stone Age and the Proto-Historic time period. So what is prehistoric era? Then the time period that we can't get any information because they were not written. So we have to use archaeological sources to get information. So that is the thing regarding here, regarding the prehistoric era. So prehistoric era, once again, we divide into two ages as Stone Age and Proto-Historic time period. So what are the differences between the Stone Age and the Proto-Historic time period? Stone Age means the time period that man used stone implements. Even they were living in natural caves. So that was the really primitive time period that they were using stone tools and they were living in natural caves. But after that, the Stone Age had been come to Proto-Historic time period. When it come to Proto-Historic time period, people started agriculture. And there were some of the differences or the changes in the lifestyle of the people when moving from Stone Age to Proto-Historic time period. So some of the changes were mainly started agriculture and they started living permanently in permanent settlements by doing agriculture. So then we can give two definitions for the Stone Age and the Proto-Historic time period. Stone Age is the time period that man used stone implements and they were living in natural caves. Proto-historic time period is that the period between end of the prehistoric era and the beginning of the historic era. So historic era means the time period of that leadership was developing. And so the history we can divide as Stone Age, then Proto-historic time period, then the early historic time period, and the historic time period. So Stone Age was the time period that man started using stone tools and natural caves. In the Proto-historic time period, they started agriculture and they started living permanently in permanent settlements. In the early historic time period, the leadership was developing, like the village leaders were developed and the regional leadership was developed. In the historic time period, the kingship was developed. So this is the answer for the first one. So you just can complete the notes while discussing. So I have given you in page number 4, this one, right? So page number 4, I have given you this note. So then in the blanks, you just can complete the notes. What is written here in red color. So red color notes are the notes that you have to complete. So then when we come to this evidences, there are two places where evidences belonging to the Stone Age in Sri Lanka is found. So in Sri Lanka, our people also have spent that Stone Age. So evidences are found from two places. What are the two places? The first place was gem mines in Ratnapura. So you know that Balangoda region, Ratnapura region, that was the region where Stone Age man of Sri Lanka were living. So after that, what happened? After this time period, Sri Lanka and South Asia had been subjected to dry, like 2-3 long period. In the time period, because of the heavy rain, what happened? The central hill country had been subjected for erosion. So then these regions had been covered with a huge that layer of soil. So even Ratnapura region had been covered with soil. Even that everywhere in Sri Lanka had been covered with soil. So then what happened? So in gem mines in Ratnapur also, now see, we have to dig like 90 feet down. When we dig like 90 feet down, we will find a gravel layer called lodes. So in that lode layer only we find the evidences regarding this Stone Age man of Sri Lanka. So then Iranamadu formation, that layer is the gravel layer covered with sandy soil layer mixed with clay in the ground in semi-arid zone. It was deposited during the short warm period of the Pleistocene era. So even this layer had been initially found from Iranamadu region. So that's why we call this layer as Iranamadu formation. So this Iranamadu formation, this layer is 1,25,000 years old. So these are the two places where and then you highlight gem mines in Ratnapur and Iranamadu formation. So they come as sometimes MCQs, they come as sometimes structured essay questions. So then they will ask what are the two places where the evidences okay, I have come back and I think you can see the slide now once again. Yeah, I think that you have completed and I'm going to the next slide then, because within 3 hours we have to complete a huge area. Right. Now these are living in 6 environmental zones. So what are these 6 environmental zones that these people were living? So now we'll see the first one, arid zone. So in arid zone means that the zone or the area in water they have to use. So that is the arid zone. Second zone is the semi-arid zones. We know that in Sri Lanka we have two semi-arid zones, one in Mena and the other one is in Hambantota. And then the lowland dry zone. Then the lowland intermediate dry zone. And then the mountainous dry intermediate zone and the wet zone. So these are the 6 environmental zones. Now after they were born in Balanguda region, they were spread to these regions. So that means all over Sri Lanka they were living. So arid zone, semi-arid zone, lowland dry zone, lowland intermediate dry zone. So intermediate dry zone means the in-between dry zone and the wet zone, that area. And mountainous dry zone and wet zone, they were living this Stone Age man of Sri Lanka. So after they were born in that Balangud and Ratnapura region. So even we can find evidences. So when you dig the ground, you can find some of the evidences about these people. Right, so I think that you are completing with me. I'm not giving another special time period to complete the tune. So you have to complete the tune while discussing, while listening. You have to just write the notes also. So I have given a map and there you have to draw the arrows and write the 6 regions where so in the mountainous dry intermediate zone, that second word is wrong. It is not dy, it must be dry. That's a pretty mistake. Okay, so I'm moving to the next slide then. So still we are just doing page number 4 of short note tute. Right. So the dates which substantiate the culture have been confirmed with evidence found in several provinces from Sri Lanka. Now, the soil layer that Stone Age man is found in these regions are old as this, like 38,000 years in Pahiyangala. So in Pahiyangala, the soil layer is 38,000 years old. So that is the oldest place in Sri Lanka. So if they are sure, so then you have to write the answer like what? 38,000 years Pahiyangala, right? Kuruvita Batatambalena, the soil layer that we find evidences about the Stone Age man is how many years old? It is 28,000 years old. Kitulgala Belilena, 15,000 years. Bellanpelli Palace, 12,000 years. So the Stone Age man of Sri Lanka, they were living in different time periods in Sri Lanka. So that means Pahiyangala, before 38,000 years, there were people. Kuruvita Batatambalan, 28,000 years. Kitulgala Belilena, 15,000 years. And Bellanpelli Palace, 12,000 years. So normally they are asking, the question that they ask is that how old is Pahiyangala? 38,000 years old. And what is the place where you will find the earliest culture? So that is Pahiyangala. So in page number 5, you are writing these things. Then key features of settlements. Factors that had been considered when selecting a settlement. Stone Age man, when they were selecting a settlement, I told you that they were born in Ratnapura region, then they have been spread to different regions like semi-arid zone, even arid zone, even the dry zone. When they were settling, they were selecting a settlement. What were the factors that they considered? So they considered availability of food and water. Without food and water, they can't live. So mainly they have considered whether food and water was available. The second thing was what? Availability of stones to make implements. Otherwise, they can't do hunting. They can't do their day-to-day activities without making implements. For making implements, what is needed? Stones are needed. So those were the only two things that they considered when selecting a settlement. They did not consider any other thing because they were not wearing anything. They were not sending their children to schools or anywhere. So that no schools needed, no electricity needed, no infrastructure needed. Only the things they needed was what? Food, water, and stones. So they considered only those two things only. So then several prehistoric outdoor habitations and cave habitations were there. So in those 6 regions, they were living where? In natural caves and outdoor habitations. In places where you can't live outdoor, they lived in caves. And in places where you can live in outdoor, they have made outdoor habitations. What are the 5 places? First one, outdoor camps in coastal areas. In coastal areas, you can't find caves. So they were living in where? Outdoor camps. So what are the 3 places where you will find outdoor camps in coastal areas? Miniha, Galkanda, Bundala, and Patirajavela. So those are the examples. And the second area, lowland wet zone caves. Now that's a cave. So these caves are located where? Lowland wet zone. So lowland wet zone caves, 3 places are there. You will find evidences: Pahiyangala, Batadombalena, and Kitulgala Belilena. Pahiyangala, Batadombalena, and Kitulgala Belilena. So even lowland dry zone caves. So now these are the 2 types of caves that Stone Age man was living. And what are the 2 types of caves here? Lowland wet zone caves and lowland dry zone caves. What are the examples? Sigiriya Potana and Sigiriya Aligala. Sigiriya Potana and Sigiriya Aligala. So then outdoor camps in lowland dry zone, that's outdoor camp. Now see, there are 2 outdoor camps we have studied in coastal areas and lowland dry zone. 2 types of caves we learned, lowland wet zone caves and lowland dry zone caves. So only one example for the outdoor camps in lowland dry zone, it was what? Bellanpelli Palace. Outdoor hunting places in hillside areas. So that means mountainous areas. That's also outdoor hunting place because no caves there. So Bandaravela and Horton Plain. Now, one of the past paper questions that had been asked is what? Give two types of habitations with examples that Stone Age man was living. So what were the two types of habitations? Caves and outdoor camps. So when you are giving answer, you can just give for caves anything. Pahiyangala, Badadombalena, Kitulgala, Belilena, Potana, Aligala, anything you can write. But if there's a question, a cave in lowland wet zone, then you must write Pahiyangala, Badadombalena, and Kitulgala. So this is something that had been given in early question papers as a past paper question regarding these the caves where Stone Age man of Sri Lanka were living. Okay, now you can complete this note. I think you are just completing the note while discussing. In the slide, red color things are the things that you have to write. In the blanks, the black color are the things that are in the tute. So even sometimes if my voice is not clear sometimes, that may happen because of the internet connection. Even you can just see the slide show and you can just complete the note. Right. So now I will recall you some of the questions that had been given in previous past papers. What was the place with earliest culture? It was Pahiyangala. How many years old? 38,000 years. And even these things have come always frequently. What the prehistoric outdoor habitations and cave habitations have come, even in MCQs and even in short questions. So sometimes you have to write 3 examples for the wet zone caves, 2 examples for dry zone caves, and what are the 2 types of habitations. Like that they give the question. So if there's a question, what are the 2 types of habitations? Outdoor habitations and cave habitations. Right, now we'll go. So this is the main question, lifestyle of the Stone Age man. So that is also in page number 5 in the short note tute about the lifestyle. So communal life, so that means how they lived. So that means in groups or in individually or like that. So communal life. So when we come to that one, they lived by hunting and roaming. So that were the main livelihoods of these people, hunting and roaming. So they were hunting and roaming. What do you mean by roaming? So they have to go to find an animal for hunting. So sometimes they were walking in the forest for 7 days or 8 days to find an animal. So because finding an animal and hunting is something very difficult and frequently they won't find animals. So then they have to go for finding animals like 7 days, 8 days, and they can't come back to their cave 8 days. So that's why roaming. So roaming means they are just walking here and they are going here and there and collecting. Normally hunting had been done by the male people and roaming had been done by the women. Especially the main 2 types of gathering food were hunting and that collecting. So collection had been done by the girls, means the woman, and hunting had been done by the men. So their population consisted of a small collection of small groups. Why small groups there? Because of the problem of food. So that means if there is a large group, a huge amount of food is needed. But here, as they were a small groups, a small amount of food is needed. So only 15 to 25 members were in one group. The maximum number was 50. There were no groups exceeding 50 members. Only 50 members are there in a group. An area of 50 square meters was enough for a family consisted of 5 members. Now, like it's a small family, no? Only 5 members, like father, mothers. This is a kind of a mean or kind of average. So 5 members. So these 5 members, they were using an area of 50 square meters. We find evidences from 2 places. What are the 2 places? Discovery of evidences of 25 people living in an area of 150 square meters from Church Hill in Bandaravela. So from there, we have found evidences about 25 people living in an area of 150 square meters. Now see, you just can divide this 150 from 25, and we just can't take that 50 square meters, but average is that evidences of using this space is given by Churchill in Bandaravela. So discovery of 30 skeletons from an area of 120 square meters from Bellanpalli Palace. There's a small printing mistake. From an area, not an area, from an area of 120 square meters from Bellanpalli Palace. So Bellanpalli Palace and Bandaravela were the two places where you are given evidences about they were living in small of 15 to 25. Okay, I think you completed the blanks. Only small amount of blanks are there. Okay, moving on to the next slide. No, the same slide. The first method of removing dead bodies. So after dying a person, after a death of a person, how they remove the dead body? Digging a small pit with a piece of horn or stick inside the cave, placing the dead body and covering it with garbage. So I have forgotten to mention here that it is inside the cave. So digging a pit, sorry, so no, not a cave, a pit. So in that pit, they place the dead body and covering it with garbage. So that is the method of removing the dead body. Why they kept their dead body inside the cave? How they can live after keeping it inside the cave? I told you that they were roaming. They were not living inside the cave. They were using the cave only in the time period that rain was there. So only in the rainy period they were living in the caves. They were other time they were living outside. They walk for about 7 days or 8 days outside to find animals. So they were living inside the cave very less time period. So because of that, they used their dead bodies and removed their dead bodies. So this is the method. The first method was digging a pit with a piece of horn or stick and placing the dead body and covering it with garbage. Where? Inside their cave. Inside their cave. Inside their cave. Okay. Now, once again, moving on to the next slide, because I think you have completed the note. So I just imagine that you are completed the note while discussing. Otherwise, we don't have any time to give to complete. What you are writing is that only the things that written in red color. So they are the answers for the blanks. Okay. Now evidences. Where we can get evidences about this first method of removing dead bodies from Pahiyankal. How many skeletons have been discovered? 12 skeletons had been discovered from Pahiyankal. And Bellanpalli Palace is another place, and from there we have found 30 skeletons. Kitulgala Belilena is another place, and from there we have found 9 skeletons. So initial removal of dead body method had been discovered from these 3 places: Pahiyankala, Bellanpalli Palace, and Kitulgala Belilena. If you can remember the number of skeletons that had been discovered from these regions, that's very good because advantageous when writing answers. But at least if you can't remember the number of skeletons, at least what you have to do, remember the 3 places where you find the evidences about the burial methods: Pahiyankala, Bellanpalli Palace, and Kitulgala Belilena. Right? So now food style. So that's something that we have to learn, communal life. Then the second thing is food style. So what type of food they were using? To get starch, they use what? Wild breadfruit seeds and wild banana mainly. In addition, some food full of starch such as kitul seeds, wild breadfruit seeds, kakuna seeds, and kernel of dodal were used. So other than flesh, they were using plant foods. So like this. So wild banana and wild breadfruit seeds are the main. In addition, some of the things that give starch like kitul seeds, wild breadfruit seeds, kakuna seeds, and kernel of dodal. Kernel means the interior part of dodal fruit. So they have eaten. So this is other than the flesh. Main food was flesh. They hunted and baked. In the question I have mentioned that some of the animals they hunted and all. And evidences about the usage of starch, evidences about the usage of plant products are there mentioned that we can find from like evidences of using baked breadfruit seeds have been found from Kitulgala Belilena. So all the evidences regarding to food habits had been discovered from Kitulgala Belilena. So even using baked breadfruit seeds, so that means breadfruit seeds they have baked and eaten. So those evidences had been found. So you don't think that we have found baked breadfruit seeds from Kitulgala Belilena. Only evidences of using them had been found. Prehistoric people prefer to eat oysters. So these oysters means actually not the sea oysters because they did not have any method of finding oysters, sea oysters. Tree snails. Tree snails means in our wet zone, low country wet zone, the snails were there. So in trees there were snails. Those tree snails they were using, and that was preferred, and that was they are one of the favorite foods of the Stone Age men of Sri Lanka, tree snails, and even lagoon oysters. Some of the oysters means actually snails found from the lagoons because they did not have any method of going to the sea to find or catch oysters. These are the two types, tree snails and lagoon oysters. So this is the favorite food of the Stone Age man, and even they preferred that. So these evidences of using salt, so they have used salt. The Stone Age men of Sri Lanka, though they were living interior of the country, they have gone to maritime areas, and from maritime areas they have obtained salt, and that salt they have added to their food and had taken. So how the evidences are given? Oyster shells found from Kitulgala Belilana is mixed with salt. So that you can't taste and find that evidence like these oyster shells had been mixed with salt. But there were some of the scientific methods that they used. That oyster shells found from Kitulgala Belilena is mixed with salt. So that is the evidence of using salt by the Stone Age man of Sri Lanka. So now we discuss about the communal life, and we discuss about the food style. Then we have discussed about the technology and even the burials. So then one question is from that section. So that's a possible question. So we will be discussing that question after discussing the short note, after completing the short note. So that's a possible question. So this question did not come fully, but a part of this question had come 2 times. Food style had come complete as a complete question in a past paper. The food style you have to write under 2 headings then. So I'll be showing here and giving guidance to you how to write under 2 headings or 3 headings. So that's how you are writing answers in the exam paper under 2 headings or 3 headings. So then it's your talent to divide this answer into 2 headings or 3 headings. For the headings also they are giving marks. For the explanation also they are giving marks. So you have to be keen on how to divide these headings and how to write the answer, how to explain, how to support that heading like that. Okay, great. So then I'm just moving to the next slide then here. Technology. So to identify about the technology, the only evidence we have is what stone implements. So stone implements are the only things that we can use to that these people are using. So there are 3 types of stone tools. What are the 3 types? Geometric micro stone tools. What do you mean by geometric micro? These stone tools were very, very small, like 4 to 5 centimeters in length. And they have been given a geometrical shape, like a square, maybe a rectangle, maybe a triangle, maybe a kind of a straight line. So some of the geometrical shape had been given to this tool. And when making this tool very, very small, it's breakable. So you can't use granite to make these tools. because it's a granite is something very breakable. When you make something very small, so then they have used what? Alabaster. Alabaster means what? A kind of white color stone that is very strong. So that's like a Tirivanagal we call in Sinhala. So alabaster and little of Kantha stone to make these geometric micro tools. Because when you make something very small using alabaster and Kantha stone, that is not breakable. So that's why they were using alabaster and Kantha. So this is one type of stone tools, geometric micro. So then even they have used non-geometric micro tools also. Some geometric tools, hunting, chopping, digging, and scratching. So these are the things used in these non-geometric micro tools. So even right on and off, this may happen, right? Because these days are, I think, very much internet busy days. So even that in my area also is busy for the internet connection. So because of that, sometimes this may happen. I think you can see the slides, okay? So yeah, this is non-geometric tools are the second type, and the third type is that large stone tools. So like they were made with granite because making large stone tools, so like grinding stones and even hammer and axe, they were making using these as large stone tools. That is the three types. So sometimes in questions they ask, what are the three types of stone tools that they have made? So then what are the three types? Geometric micro, non-geometric micro, and large stone tools. So we are completing page number 6 of the short note dude. Still we have not gone for a question. Then we'll be going for a question. Okay. Nature of the people's physical body. So that means in page number 7 of the short note, we just can write this one. Height of a grown male, 174 centimeters. Height of a grown female, 166 centimeters. And they had a wide nose and a chin. And size of the brain of a grown male was 1,600 cubic centimeters. And grown female, 920 cubic centimeters. Now see the difference that grown male was like 1,600. Grown female was 920, so just a half, like the lifespan was 35 to 40 years. So this is about the people's physical body. Sometimes this information is used to make some MCQs and short questions only. They don't give anything like this as an essay type question. So now I think it's the time to go for an essay type question. And but before that, we have to go for the rituals. So the first ritual, they just they have dug a small pit inside their cave with a piece of horn or piece of stone. They placed the dead body in that pit and covered it with the garbage. And this is the second method. So what is the second method? This was something improved, an improved method. So now the dead bodies are buried outside, so that they did not bury any dead body inside the cave. Outside the cave, they were just burying the dead body in a faraway place. After some times, the bones were brought back, and protruded edges and the rough surfaces of the skull had been rubbed against another stone to make surface smooth. So that's something, a ritual actually. So rituals have no meaning. why they have done like that. So some of the protruded surfaces and the rough edges of the skull had been rubbed against another stone and made it smooth. And after that, applied with grinded brown stones on one side of the skull and reburied in shallow pits around their settlements. Now, even not inside the cave. So this burying was there even outside the cave. So this is the second type of ritual. Second type of removing dead bodies. So you know that during Stone Age, only they were doing burying the dead bodies. They did not do any burning. Burning comes in the Proto-Historic time period. Okay. Now we'll go to the next one. Evidences are found from three places. Once again, Battadambalana and Pahiyangala mainly. So skeletons discovered in the cave called Battadambalana in Kuruvita had been curled and buried. So special feature regarding the skeletons found from this Battadambalana, they were curled and buried. So I don't know the meaning of that, or there's no any meaning that why curling and burying. So maybe because of the space problem. So when you are burying lot of skulls, the skeletons, there's no space. So because of that, sometimes they have made it curled and buried. And Pahiyankala, you will find dead bodies, not the dead bodies, skeletons, on which the skull had been painted with brown stones. So skulls had been painted with brown stones in the skeletons found from Pahiyankala. So these two things are asked in the examination, short questions, even in MCQs, where you will find the skeletons buried, curled. So that is a place, Battadambalana in Kuruvita. And where you will find the skeletons on the skull, the one side was painted with brown stone. So the answer is Pahiyankala. Okay. Now it's the time for going for a question. Now see, from this part of the lesson, that question number 2 of the O-level paper, they give questions. As I told you, the first question in the second paper is a compulsory question with map marking and structured essay questions. So that's a compulsory question, the first question. So it carries 30 marks. Then you have second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh questions. There are 6 questions that they are based on Sri Lankan history. So from Sri Lankan history from grade 10 to 11, these 6 questions are given. So given from grade 10, 4 questions are given from grade 10, and 6 and 7, 2 questions are given from grade 11. Now see the value from grade 11, only 2 questions. From grade 10, 4 questions. Out of these 6 questions, how many questions you are trying? You are answering. You have to answer 4 questions out of these 6 questions. So then, as my suggestion, the second question is the easiest. Third question is also easy. And even 6 and 7 are easier because they are from grade 11 stuff. Third and fourth and fifth are a little bit tough. So because that's why I have selected here the question number 2 and what are the possible questions that may come from this question 2. So you know that there are a separate set of questions that the examiners use. If we can answer all these questions, we are able to write answers for the question paper, because they don't select any other question. They just select one from the list. So there are a list of questions. Now see, this question is a possible question. From the prehistoric man, Stone Age man, they can give a question. So what is the question? Explain lifestyle, food style, technology, and rituals of Stone Age man. So that is a possible question. So food style had come for 2 times in past papers from 2016. Technology also had come 1 time. So rituals had come many times. Lifestyle also had come for MCQs. So this section is very, very important. Now we are going to question tube. So you just can select the question tube and go to page number 2. So in page number 2, this question is there. Question number, even this question is given with the connection with the first lesson of grade 10. So that's why I have put here A3. 2 possible questions were there from the first lesson. And this is a possible question from the second lesson. So what is the first one? Lifestyle of prehistoric man. So then when this question is given, how the question is given? Explain briefly lifestyle, food style, and technology of Stone Age man. So that is the possible question. Out of you have to write. So then, if a question is given like that, this is the heading: lifestyle of prehistoric man, or the communal life of prehistoric man. So under that, this is the paragraph you have to write. So this paragraph you have to write. So your answer, your the explanation should be there as a paragraph. You can't write in point form. If you write in the point form, you are not given marks. So in the marking scheme, it's clearly said that you have to explain, you have to support your heading from your explanation. So then when you are writing the lifestyle of prehistoric man as the heading, for that heading also they give you 1 mark. And then you have to explain this in a small paragraph like this. Then you are given marks like 1.5 marks. So maybe 1 mark. So what is the paragraph then? People of prehistoric era lived by hunting and roaming. So using the information in the short note, we have made a information that we wrote in the short note. So from one place to another gathering food. So they spent mostly a nomadic life. So that means roaming life. They were not staying in one place permanently. Nomadic life during the whole year. Only in rainy seasons, they lived in natural caves. They lived as small groups because of the food problem of finding food. All these things we have discussed. Normally, one group comprised of between 15 to 25 members. The maximum number was 50. An area of 50 square meters was enough for a family of 5 members. Now see, using that communal life, we have made a paragraph here. This paragraph is including all the information given in the short note. Now, how the marks are given. For your information, marks are given. For even the style of writing, they give marks. So that's how they give marks: style of writing and information. So that means content and style. So for content, they give marks. For the style, they give marks. That's why I told you, if you don't write this as a paragraph, if you write this as a in point form, you are not given marks. You are given marks for the content only. So that's how the marks are given here. If you're heading, 1.5 mark for the explanation. If you're writing under 3 headings, 1 mark for the heading, 1 mark for the explanation. Okay. So complete the blanks there. So moving to the second heading then. Regarding food style, that heading had come several times in past papers. So I'm not going to produce here past papers because we don't have time. We have a very short time. So then you just can refer past papers and see how the questions have been given. And using this short note and question tube, you can answer any of the questions given in the previous past papers, right? So evidences, these 2 evidences you have to write. What are the 2 evidences? That Church Hill evidence and Bellanbendy Palace evidence. So what was the Church Hill in Bandaraville evidence? Discovery of evidences about 25 people in an area of 150 square meters from Church Hill in Bandaraville. And discovery of 30 skeletons from an area of 120 square meters from Bellanbendy Palace. On and off, if you are writing as information, no problem. But it must be totally an explanation as a paragraph. Okay, giving time to write this answer. Okay. Now, food style, I told you that this had come several times. So they had consumed both flesh of animals, and plant food items. They had hunted animals such as buffalo, black bear, wild boar, deer, spotted deer, porcupine, rabbit, stag, giant squirrel, mongoose, wild fowl, monkey, civet cat, and python. So that we did not write in the short note, no, that about the consuming of flesh. So we wrote about this one. What? To get starch, they ate some plant food such as wild breadfruit seeds and yams. And in addition, some food full of starch such as kidul seeds, coconut seeds, and kernel of dotul were eaten. Food had been eaten after being baked. Prehistoric people there are evidences of using salt from Kitulgala Belly. Now see, the things that we wrote in the short note, once again we have taken as a paragraph here. Now, food style of prehistoric man, Stone Age man, had been given as a question in past papers. I told you 2 times. So 2 times it had been given. So here I'm not going to show you how they have given the question, but you just can refer the past papers and see this had come. So that's why I have selected it as a possible question that may be given. Even the evidences you have to write, that discovery of oyster shells from Kitulgala Belilena, that shows that they consumed oysters, and those oyster shells were mixed with salt. That shows that they were consuming salt. And discovery of evidences of consumption of baked breadfruit seeds belonging to a time period of 1,25,000 years, 125,000 years. So that means the evidences go for a time period of 125,000 years. So that means what? Even in Sri Lanka, there were humans before a time. Okay, it's the time for you to complete the blanks. So this is page number 2 of the question tube, right? So I told you that I have mentioned in right up corner what tube and what page we are referring. So if you have missed anything, just you can see the right top corner and see what page we are doing now. So this is a possible question for question 2 of O-level paper. So last year they have not given any question from this one. So this year, this may be a question. Okay, right now we'll move on to the next slide and see. Next one is technology. So we know that how to find out the technology, that is stone tools. Now see, the things that we learned in the short note, I have used here as a paragraph. So this is the difference, that short note you have to keep to study, and this question theory is a model question. So if you have answered all the possible questions that can be given for the exam, it's easy for you to write answers. Why? You should not think about anything. You just can go to the exam, how to write answers. All these things are here. Stone tools are the only proof that exists to know about their technology. The stone tools in these have been named so because they had been given geometric shape. They had used more alabaster and a little of kahanda stones to make them. There were geometric as well as non-geometric stone tools. Mostly non-geometric stone tools were used. Non-geometric microstone tools were made mostly. They had been made for cutting, chopping, scratching, and digging. Apart from these, some tools such as hammers and grinding stones had been made using granite. Now see, so about the technology, so about the stone tools, about the 3 types of stone tools, we have given a paragraph here. So this is the method that you have to write. So one of the objectives of this seminar is that to introduce you how to write answers also, because the students in my class, they know that how to answer, how to approach a question, but there may be some outside. So then outside students, they can identify how to approach a question and how to write a proper question to get the marks. Studying only the textbook is not enough to get a pass in history. So history question paper is challenging. So there are some possible questions that are given. So then if we get ready for those questions, it is easy. It will be easy for you to write answers, because within 3 hours, you have to complete 5 questions. It's a challenging task, because in the second paper, sometimes now some students come out of the examination hall saying that I have had a lot of extra time for the second paper. So if you have extra time for the second paper, that means you have not written successful answers. For the second paper, you should not have extra time, spare time. So entire 3 hours you have to write. But for the first paper, you will be having extra time, because 40 questions very easy. Sometimes within 30 minutes you're finishing, and even 30 minutes sleeping, no problem, right? So that is the first question paper. So first part of the question paper. But second part of the question paper is not so easy. You have to write and write and write to get marks. If you're not writing, you are not getting marks. So it is not like science. Science, you are writing a very brief answers and short answers, summarized answers, and getting marks. But in history, you have to explain. So then rituals of prehistoric man. Rituals can be observed to a certain extent regarding the burials of dead bodies. Such an instance could be evident from Ravana cave, some place that I have reached for the first time. Earlier, I have given Bellanvelipal as a Pahiangala and Kitulgala Belidana. In the skull found from there, rough edges and parts protruded outside had been rubbed, leveled, and painted with brown stones red in color. Even several parts of skeletons painted with red color brown stones have been discovered from Pahiangala. See the information we wrote in the short note. Pahiangala, we find what skeletons painted from with the brown stones. So that had been included here.
Sir?
Skeletons discovered in the
Anuradha,
cave
sir?
called Bellanvelipal in Kuruvita. That's wrong. So that answer is wrong. So we have to make it correct, because when I'm just writing this one, making this one, that mistake.
Anuradha, sir, can you hear me?
It's Bata Dombalin. So the last blank. Yeah, sir.
Sir, you are breaking, sir. Your voice is not clear. Sir? Yeah, your voice is breaking, sir.
So Hilmi, sir, you are welcome.
Yeah, your voice is breaking, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Your voice is breaking, sir, when you are teaching.
Yeah, I can hear you. That connection problems may be.
I think okay, sir, it's okay. You can continue, sir. No issue.
Okay, right, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, this last blank is wrong. It must be Batadombalena, not the Bellanvelipal, right? Okay, yeah, maybe big that written everything here. So I think you just can see this everything and complete the tune. So I'm sorry that if my voice is breaking. So maybe because of the connection problems, However, I'm just moving forward to the next one. Right. So the next one is dead bodies were buried, bones were rubbed against another stone to make them smooth. Grinded brown stones was shallow pits around their settlements. Right. So this is the answer for the rituals of prehistoric man. Okay, I think you have completed the blanks there. We have less a number of blanks there. Then I'm moving to the next slide then. Once again, I'm moving to the short note use. Short note page, page number 7, proto-historic time period. So what is proto-historic time period? At the end of the Stone Age, proto-historic time period came. So proto-historic time period was the time period actually how it came because of a climatic change. So what was this climatic change? You know that world temperature had been risen, and because of that, some of the areas in the world became suitable for agriculture. So this is the climatic change experienced by the world after now. Stone Age means actually the Ice Age. So ending of the Ice Age, and some of the areas had become suitable for agriculture because of the increasing of world temperature. Then these areas became suitable for agriculture. Because of that, the lifestyle of the people had become changed. So starting now, what are the changes that they have experienced in the lifestyle? Starting of doing agriculture. So they started doing agriculture, and they started using burnt clay pots. So this is the first time that they started using burnt clay pots and started using iron implements. So it was the time that they started using iron, and even sedentism. So what is sedentism? Using permanent settlements. So because of agriculture, they started settling permanently in places where they could do agriculture. And even burnt clay pots, they were using to cook their food items. And this one started adopting proper burials so that you can just, right? So this time period is known as Proto-Historic Iron Age. Okay, so this the proto-historic time period was known as proto-historic Iron Age. So why we call it as proto-historic Iron Age? Because people started using iron during this period. Okay, now we'll move on to the next page of the short note. Next one is megalithic burials. So that means after coming into this proto-historic time period, the burials also became different. So different means like this now. As an example, I told you that Stone Age, they were doing burying after that, they started burning dead bodies, but not quickly they changed this method so that first burying, then burying and burning together, then it came to burning only. So that was a major change in the burials. So clay tub burials were the initial burials of the megalithic time period. So what is known as megalithic period? So megalithic period was the time period that the proto-historic time period started. As an example, the time period that world temperature had been risen. So that time period is known as megalithic time period. So what is clay tub burials? So people of this time period, they started making a clay basin. So clay tub using raw clay. They did not burn the dead body inside the clay tub. So what did they do? They just buried the dead bodies. After that, the dead body bones were brought back. Bones only kept inside the clay tub and they buried. So not buried, they burnt. So then dead bodies were buried outside. After that, the bones were brought back. Bones were kept inside a clay basin and closing the clay basin, keeping some holes for the ventilation, and they cremated. See, means and they burnt. So that's known as clay tub burials. So clay tub burials was the initial. Now here you can see in this method, they are using both of the methods, what burying and burning, burying and burning. So second method is what? Urn burials. In urn burials, what do they do? Depositing remainings of burnt dead bodies in clay pots and burying underground. So this time, entire dead body was burnt. After burning the dead body, remainings they are keeping inside a clay pot. And after that, they just bury the clay pot underground. So that is known as urn burials. Urn means even clay urns. Third type is cyst burials. So what is cyst burials? Depositing remainings of burnt dead bodies in clay pots and keeping them in properly prepared burials. Now here what happens in the cyst burials, they just burn the dead body, depositing the remains inside a clay pots, and after that, these clay pots were deposited not just underground like in urn burials, they were where the walls had been mounted with stone splinters and covered with stone slabs. So we will be discussing one question regarding megalithic burials in the question tune, right? So assured dates of residential places. Beragal burial ground is 2400 BC. It is old as 2400 BC. And Udaranchamadam residential place is 1129 BC. So these two dates I have given because they were important as short questions. Okay. Now the technology of the proto-historic man, housing. So the technology comes under housing and making clay pots, even using iron. So that's a big question sometimes that may come. So in housing here, houses with wattle and daub walls had been constructed, and they were constructing these walls on a very strong foundation. So what is the technology that they knew? They knew that if they don't construct a house or walls on a strong foundation, they will be sinking. The other thing that they knew was what? These walls must be perpendicularly constructed to the ground, otherwise they are falling. So that's the two things regarding housing, the things that they knew. Making clay pots. There were a lot of painted potsherds in Udaranchamadam house. So what is Udaranchamadam house? That was the ruins of only house of the stone proto-historic man that we have found. It had been found from Udaranchamadam settlement that is belonging to Ratnapura district. So from there, we have found parts of clay pots, a lot of parts of clay pots. And the white background of the outside and the bottom side of the pot had been beautified by painting red in color. And lines have been symmetrically painted. Now, these things give us the evidence that these clay pots had been made. The clay pots had been made using a simple machine known as potter's wheel. So the lines are symmetrical. So lines are symmetrical means potter's wheel had been used in painting. Potter's wheel had been used in making the clay pot. So they were found from where? Udaranchamadam settlement. So this is about making clay pots. I told you technology of the proto-historic man had been evidented from three things. One is housing, one is making clay pots and using iron, how they extracted iron from the ground. So other implements found from Rajamadam house. So what were the other, why clay beads they were using? Especially girls of that period, they were using clay beads to wear. That is a kind of that beautifying. And an iron stick used to apply kohl on eyelashes of ladies. This show that the early ladies of proto-historic time period, they were doing beauty culture. And two brown stones they used to color the skin. So even they were coloring the skin, they were applying kohl on eyelashes, and even they were using clay beads as that ornaments. So this is beauty culture. Some of the other implements found from Chamadam house. So these things also may be asked in short questions and MCQs. So you must be keen on this also. All the important notes only I have given in the short note, not the other notes here. Okay, complete these blanks and we can go to the next slide then. Okay, right. So now this once again we move back on to the question tube. Question tube, page number 4. Another possible question that can be given for second question is this one about proto-historic man. So if they give you a question regarding proto-historic man, they can ask this question: what is the nature? Explain nature of the settlements, lifestyle, technology, and burials. So this is page number 4 of question tube. Nature of the settlements of proto-historic time period. People abandoned their hunting livelihood and built permanent settlements. Major evidence related to housing is remnants of houses that have been discovered from Udarachamadama settlement in Ratnapura district. And now these are the features of that house. This you can explain as a paragraph. If not, you can write in this way, no problem. So what is the size of the house? The found house is 10.2 meters long, 6.8 meters wide. And what is the shape of this one? Rectangular shape. So it's just a rectangular shape. A small house. How was the foundation? The foundation was made with strawing large stones and applying clay on it. What is the purpose? They had made strong foundations. They had made strong foundations. On the strong foundations only, they have constructed wattle and dove walls perpendicularly. So walls were how? Wattle and dove walls. That means wattle and dove walls were what? Using clay, they were making a wall, but actually they are inside that wall, there's a frame, a wooden frame. So in a wooden frame, they, they apply mud balls and they make the wall. So the walls were perpendicularly made to the ground. And how was the roof? The roof was thatched with iluk. And how many rooms were there? So there were 2 rooms in this house. The rectangular shaped room has 2 rooms only. One open room. So normally in the daytime, they live in this open room because otherwise it's very hot. So this open room is having short walls, and the rear room, there was one rear room. That rear room was having high walls. Normally at night, they were living in the rear room because otherwise the wild animals may come and attack them. To be prevented or to be protected from the wild animals, they were using the rear room. And kitchen was a hut at the back of the house. So these were the features of the found house in Udarachamadama. You can't say that every house is like this. Maybe some other houses are different, but only one house we have found. That's also not a house, only a ruin. So from the ruin, we have just made a sketch, and these are the features that we can prove about the house. So when writing this answer, if you want, you just can write this one as a paragraph. If this is in the middle of the answer. Okay, then moving on to the next slide. We are continuing this proto-historic man's question. So this is regarding nature of settlements. Then we'll move on to the lifestyle of these people and the technology and then the burials. The lifestyle. In Udaranka Madam House, built around 3129 years ago, a number of potsherds were discovered. Many were painted potsherds. According to the manner in which lines in pots that were painted, it might be made by using potter's wheel. I told you, no, these pots were made with the use of a simple machine known as potter's wheel. Several tools in the kitchen were found. Some were stone tools and some were iron tools. Using iron tools had been a new experience. Bones found from the house show that although they got used to an agricultural lifestyle, they did not completely abandon hunting. So that means even they did hunting, even they did agriculture. Both the flesh of hunted animals as well as agricultural foods had been used. Few clay beads and an iron sticks used to apply coal on ladies' eyes, two brown stones used to color the body, and two grinding stones to rub the brown stones had been found. That showed that the women were living during that period were interested in beautifying their body. Now lifestyle. So for the lifestyle, you have to just write about the using tools, even the things that they have done, like beautifying their body. So everything you have to include. And one, that is a technology. So for the technology, beginning of the metal technology and making clay pots can be regarded as the new technology adapted in this era. So as a result of using iron, what happened? They could do their day-to-day activities very efficiently and effectively. So iron was a strong metal and could use in clearing forest and the ground. The painted clay pots found from Udarancha show the high technological standard of making clay pots. The clay beads found show the technology of making beads existed. They have used a high and advanced technology in building houses. So setting the foundation in a way that sinking does not happen and building walls perpendicular to the ground, that's a special technology that they knew. So even that you can include the method of making clay tub burials. That's also come under this. That's also come under clay technology. That also comes under technology of the proto-historic man. Even you can just add that one also. Especially how iron had been used, especially how iron tools had been made, clay pots had been made, and even that clay tub burials had been made come under technology of the proto-historic time period. Even this question can be given as a separate question. So that also had come in some of the past papers that explain the technology of the proto-historic man under 3 headings. So if so, you have to write clay pot technology separately, making iron tools separately, and that making houses separately. So that question is not coming for the second question normally. If it is given, it is coming for the third or fourth questions, mainly like fourth question, because fourth question is mainly on technology of the man, even during Stone Age, proto-historic time period, and early historic time period. So now we completed one question once again from the question that can be given for the second question. Even I'm just discussing another question that may come for this question. Burials of proto-historic man. The 3 types of burials. Can you remember? Clay tub burials, urn burials, and cyst burials. So this clay tub burials, I give just a small note in the short note tube. But here we can write a very big paragraph regarding clay tub burials. So according to dating, clay tub burials are the oldest. So this is the oldest burials. How we know that they are the oldest? The method that we know that they are the oldest is that even that some of the tools stone tools were there. Some of the stone tools were there in this clay tub burial. So that show that clay tub burials were the oldest. So they were made using raw clay in a shape of a clay basin. So after selecting the appropriate clay type, The walls of the tomb had been made perpendicularly to the ground using proper measurements like the width and the height. Some holes had been made, or a clay tube had been fixed for a ventilation. So now see, that shows what? They knew that oxygen is needed for burning. They did not know any that type of air known as oxygen is there, but they knew that what? They knew that air is needed for burning. So that is the evidence to show that early people knew that air is needed for burning. So then clay tub burials are found from Nikalamulla in Ruanwell and Kalotuava in Atanagal. So this is clay tub burials. So then the urn burials, we don't have that much to write about urn burials. These burials are regarded as megalithic burials. In this method, dead bodies were cremated and the remainings of the burned dead bodies were kept in clay pots. These clay pots were buried underground, and the time period of these burials were not properly determined. So now see, if you are given a question to explain burials of the proto-historic time period, you just have to explain under these three headings: what? Clay tub burials, urn burials, and cyst burials. So still we are in the second question. Still we are discussing the possible questions that can be given as the second question. So if you start now, this question had come in a past paper. So if you refer past papers, you can see that this question had come in one of the past papers. 2 times it had come. So those possible questions, when we discuss and get ready, it is easy for you to answer any question given. I told you, the people who prepare the paper, they have a collection of the questions and they select questions from that collection and prepare the paper. If we know all the possible questions in the collection, it is easy for you to write answers for the question paper. So here what I do, I just give you all the questions in the collection with the answers. Then you will be able to write answers for the question paper. Right. Now the third one is cyst burials. Cyst burials were the third type and the latest type. These burials were even belonging to megalithic burials. In this method also what happened? So dead bodies were burnt. The remainings were deposited in clay pots. These clay pots were deposited in properly prepared burials. How these burials were prepared? Walls had been made mounted with stone splinters. And after depositing clay pots, they were covered with stone slabs. So evidences are found from 3 places: Ibban Katua megalithic burial, Gal Sohon Kanat in Yapahu, and Yatigal Potta burial in Galevela. So they were the cyst burials. So we discussed 3 possible questions now. One more possible question is there, that is regarding the settlements. This is the most frequent question that had come. Always it was coming. And in past papers, you can see this question had given a lot of times. So that is regarding the settlements of the early historic time period. So even that includes in the second lesson. So then the second question is over. Then we move on to the third lesson and possible questions that can be given from the third lesson to the third question. Okay. After that, once again, we have to move on to short note. But I just want to show you this one. Here you see this is a small village. Here you see something known as hamlet. So hamlet is a small village here. Only 5 to 6 families are living there. And this is the village. And then their paddy fields are here. And they have to construct a small tank like this. So this is a tank. And these are paddy fields, and these are chainers that they cultivate. So like that, this is the structure of a small village. Only 5 to 6 families were living. So then we'll move on to the next one: expansion of settlements. Reasons for selecting dry zone. After coming into the agricultural age, why they selected dry zone? These are the 3 reasons why they selected the dry zone. Proper climatic conditions for agriculture. So proper climatic conditions are needed for agriculture, that is found from the dry zone. You can't find proper climatic conditions for agriculture from the wet zone, like here, Colombo, that area. So red and brown soil. So that soil was really important for agriculture. In that soil, only the crops are grown well. So receiving water from monsoon rain and rivers. So all these features are found from the dry zone. That's why the people of the proto-historic time period, they selected dry zone as their settlement. So reasons for not selecting river valleys. Initially, they did not select river valleys. Why they did not select river valleys? Because river valleys were regularly flooded and their settlements were destroyed. Later on, when they understood the method of controlling floods only, they just migrated to river valleys, fertile river valleys, and started agriculture and started receiving more harvest. And Wapigam. So what are Wapigam? It's a tank village. So every village was having a tank. A village with tank was known as a Wapigama. The evidence to study the spread of settlements was ruins of tanks. So every village was having a tank. In every village, a tank was constructed. By observing the ruins of tanks, you can see the spread of the settlements, right? So one village was separated from the other by a strip of jungle. So not like now. Now every village was interconnected. So that means after this village, another village. Like after that village, another village. But in olden days, two villages were isolated. They were isolated units. So in between two villages, there were strips of jungle. And settlements where different types of professionals living. So Kasikaragama was what? Kasikaragama was the village where farmers are living. Manikaragama were the villages where gem workers are living. And Gopalagama were the villages where shepherds are living. So like that, there are 6 villages where different professionals were living. All the people in Kasikaragama, they are doing agriculture, farming activities, producing paddy. All the people in Manikaragama, they are doing gem mining and gem cutting. All the people that cows, they were shepherds. The production of these villages have been exchanged. So the product of Kasikaragama, they are giving their products to the other village, and their production is taken back. So that's a barter system. They were using the barter system. Okay, then we'll move on to the next one. So here there are 3 other villages where professionals were living. So Kaivatagama is what? Village where fishermen were living. Kumbhakaragama was what? Village where potters were living. And Vadakigama were what? Village where carpenters were living. So these were the villages of the professionals. Even there were villages existed on the basis of tasks. Patanagam, it's a village located nearby harbors. Niyamgama, a trading village. Olagam, deserted tank villages. So like how Olagam were emerged, imagine that a kind of disease like corona had been affected by a village. So then what these people have to do? There were no medicine at that time. So they had to leave the village. So if villages were left their village because of a disease, or maybe the soil had become infertile, that's the Olagama. And large urban settlements are known as Pura. The name given to Anuradhapura in Panakadu copper plate was Nurapura. The architect of the city was Pura Kamatha, and medium-scale settlements are known as Nakara. So then we can move on to a question now. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide then. Yeah, now once again, question 2, page number 5. So this is the last possible question that can be given for the second question. Nature of settlements, what we learned in short note. So here, it can be given as explain the nature of settlements of early historic period under 3 headings. So if you're writing under 3 headings, rural settlements is the first heading. So how to write about the rural settlements? The early historical period was between 450 BC to 300 AD. In the historical period, majority of the settlements existed mainly close to a tank. The settlements where it was based on a tank is known as Vapigama. One village was separated from the other by a strip of jungle. Some settlements were different types of professionals lived in have been mentioned in historical chronicles. Now see, now you have to write some examples. Giving examples is very, very important. Here we have 6 examples, but we gave only 3 examples. Why we give 3 examples? Because otherwise we don't have the time to write such long answers in the exam. So the best thing is that you have to give examples, but when giving examples, don't give all the examples. 1/2 is enough. Always when you are giving something, 3 things you just give. So when you are writing an answer, 3 information you should give. So at least 3 information. So apart from this, there were several villages existed on the basis of tasks. What? Pattanagama, village by a sport. Niyamgama, trading village. Olagam, deserted tank village. So small scale villages was normally not more than 0.15 hectares. Now that was the size of a small village, not more than 0.15 hectares. Normally there lived 5 to 6 families. I showed you the structure of a village, 5 to 6 families, and about 30 families lived in some large scale villages. So what is a Parikitagama then? A village protected by a fence. What is an Aparikitagama? A village not protected by a fence. Now all these things you have to include in your answer when you are writing about rural settlements. I told you this was a question that had been given frequently in past papers. Out of all the questions given here up to now, this was the most frequent question, and this question had come several times for the exam. Okay, moving on to the next one then. So medium scale settlements, there were medium scale settlements also, but now see in your textbook, this is not given. So even though something is not given in the textbook, it's not, okay. So then sometimes they have asked, explain 3 types of settlements, then you have to use this one. So what is the second type? Medium scale. That means not a small village, not a very big urban settlement. It's a medium scale settlement. There are settlements larger than small villages and smaller than a city. They were called as Nakara or Nagara. Now even we call them as Nagara. No? So Nakara, Nagara, that means they were not a large urban, but they were urbanized settlements. These settlements were normally located at gaps. Gaps means what? The places where the low country and hill country joins. So all the road networks are lying through the gaps. So you have to go through a gap to the hill country. So they were mostly used for trade activities, village products and things from cities were exchanged. Few shops or a fair could be seen in these settlements. Traders from cities usually visited these settlements. Now that's a medium scale settlement. That means not a village, not a city, not a large city. It's intermediate settlements. Mainly they were formed based on what? Based on the trade activities. Now, large urban settlements is the third type. Now we discuss about the rural settlements, second one medium scale settlements, third one large urban settlements. They were larger than 2 hectares in size. There is a population about 35,000. Usually rich farmer families and traders were living. How they had been formed. As an example, our people, rich people wanted to buy foreign products. To buy the foreign products, they had to meet foreign traders. How the foreign traders are coming? They were coming through ports. Now, as an example, Mahatitha port in Mena, close by to that Mahatitha port, Anuradhapura city had become a large city because of these trade activities. The Parumakas, they have gone to Anuradhapura, the traders, they have come to Anuradhapura, they exchanged their products. Near to Hambantota port, Magama became a trade center. So like that, so they were the large urban settlements. For the comfort of them, urban components are developed. So in these cities, urban components are developed. So what are the urban components? Protective walls, parks, road networks, and trade centers were there. So these settlements were called Pura. So Anuradhapura, Magampura. So that Pura part had come to at the end of the name. Anuradhapura city was called by the name Nurupura in Panakadu copper plate. So Panakadu copper plate was the source that give information about King Vijayabhau I. So in that one, Anuradhapura was known as Nurupura. First two cities in our country were Anuradhapura and Magampura. So this paragraph you should write for the large urban settlements. Even you can include some of the information, but this is enough. So that is the last possible question that can be given for the second question. So second question, these are the possible questions. I discussed 4 questions with you. One question about Stone Age man, another question about the Proto-Historic man, another question about the burials of the Proto-Historic time period, and the last question about the settlements of the early historic time period. Remember for the exam, so if you get ready for this, second question is the easiest question that you have to try. For that, I gave you all the possible questions. So that's what our target and objective. Now we'll be continuing. They were due to the development of large and small harbors located around the country. The main architect of the city was called Purakamata. The city administrator was called Nagara Gutika. So Purakamata, Nagara Gutika. Purakamata and Nagara Gutika. Okay. Now once again we will be moving to the short note. And short note, we will be moving to the third lesson because second lesson is over now. We completed one half, second lesson we finished. Now we'll be moving on to the third lesson then. Right, the third lesson. Lesson 3 in the short note, page number 10. So page number 10 of the short note. Development of political power in Sri Lanka. So that is the lesson. So I told you today we will be discussing 2 lessons and 2 possible questions that may come for the second question and third question. So pre-state era. So what is pre-state era? We divided the history into 4 time periods. Stone Age, the time that man had used stone implements and living in natural caves. Proto-historic time period, the time period that people started agriculture and living in permanent settlements. Then pre-state era means the period that the leadership was developing. Parumakas and Gamikas and householder Gruhapatis were developing. The leadership was developing, but no kings. the time period before Sri Lanka becoming a state, the time period before Sri Lanka becoming a kind of government, okay, a government or a state was ruled by a king. In the inscription found from Kotgalkanda, that's wrong spelling, Kotgalkanda, it must be K-O-T-H, Kotgalkanda, in Kandalama, it is mentioned about a regional ruler using the phrase Totabojaka. This was the first instance that we got information about a regional ruler. This Totabojaka means what? The Totabojaka means the pot eater. The pot eater means the one who obtained the profits from the pot, the one who obtained taxes from the pot. So Totabojaka. So about Totabojaka, a regional ruler, it is mentioned in Kodgalkanda inscription in Kandalam. Gruhapati means householders. Householders means the head of the family. Maybe father, maybe mother. He was or she was a householder. He was known by the name Gruhapati. So the inscription that gives information about Gruhapati Pulyankalama inscription, what is mentioned? One Gruhapati doing metal work had cleaned a cave and offered to monks. So that is the information given by Pulyankalama inscription. Then who was Gamika? Gamika was the village headman. How Gamika was selected? Now in once again, I just recall the structure of the village that I have shown you, that 5-6 families were there. These 5-6 families, they have selected different land areas for agriculture. Some they received very good land areas, very fertile land areas. Some they received less fertile land areas. Those who received very rich land areas, they started receiving extra income, extra production. So then the people who got less production because of receiving less fertile lands had to depend on those people. What people? The people who received a very good harvest. Gradually, those people became the Gamikas, leaders of the village. Now, what were the responsibilities of these Gamikas? Now, how Gamikas had been emerged? He was the person who represented the village in matrimonial affairs. Normally, marriages were not done inside the village. All the people in the village were relatives. It's not good to marry each other. So they did matrimonial relations with another village. In those matrimonial relationships, the one who represented the village was Gamika, and representing the village in trade affairs. So when doing trade affairs, the one person was representing the village. He's taking the leadership. So he was the Gamika or the village headman. And representing the village in inter-village problem solving. There were problems in between or among villages. In solving those problems, one person represented the village. He was Gamika. He was the head of the village. Okay, right. Moving to the next one in the short note. Monk Buddha Ghosha had mentioned that Gamikas had been selected from Gruhapatis themselves in Samanta Pasadika. Monk Buddha Ghosha had written a literary source known as Samanta Pasadika. Then he wrote in that Gamika was selected from Gruhapatis. Now, I told you that the householder who received an excess production became the Gamika. So that is mentioned in Samanta Pasadika by Monk Buddha Ghosha. What are the main duties of Gamika? So when a Gamika was selected, what were the main duties of him? He had to maintain the village tank and distributing water. So maintaining village tank and distributing water should be done by the Gamika. And taking leadership in village affairs. So he had to take the leadership in village affairs. And solving problems in the village. So he had to solve the problems in the village. They were the duties. Now don't misunderstand the responsibilities and the duties. So don't mislead by those two. Responsibilities were the things that this person was made as the leader. Duties were the things that he had to do after becoming the leader. So these are the duties of Gamika. and inscriptions that tell about the cooperation of Gamikas. So that means Gamikas, they were working cooperatively. So Situlpa in inscription, information is that three Gamikas, namely Shiva, Sumana and Tidana, collectively cleaned a cave and offered it to monks. So this show that Gamikas, they were working collectively, cooperatively. Three leaders of three villages, they collectively had cleaned a cave and offered it to monks. So that was the best merit that a person could do in the history, cleaning a cave and offering it to monks for living. And the Parumaka was a regional ruler. So how a Parumaka had been emerged? Now we understood how a Gamika had been emerged. Out of all the village leaders, the family leaders, the one who possessed the wealth, the one who possessed the extra production. So he became the village leader. How a Parumaka was born? So a birth of Parumaka and the tank system is having an interconnection. So what is a cascade of tanks? It's known as Elanga. A system of village tanks joined together by canals for the purpose of conserving water. Why they interconnected the village tanks? There were some large village tanks. There were some small village tanks. During the dry period, some small village tanks were dried. Villagers with large tanks provided water for these villagers with small tanks. So that's why they interconnected these tanks, small village tanks. So such a system was known as Ellangav. So Ellangav was the English name, cascade of tanks, and Ellangav was what? It was a system of village tanks interconnected through canals. So there are two advantages by interconnecting. One thing that water conservation. Small tanks can get water from bigger tanks, and even when they were joined through a canal, the canal goes through a jungle. So the land beside the canal become damped and humid, and that area becomes suitable for agricultural activities when doing chain cultivation. So those are the two advantages. Okay, write this one to go for the next slide. Okay. Right. Advantages received from the Elangava cascade of tanks. Can take water from large tanks when the small tanks were dried up during the dry season, and land beside canals become humid and suitable for agriculture due to dampness. There was a paramaka for each tank system. So out of all the village leaders, one person became the leader of this tank system, and he was known as paramaka. So even there were women who did this provincial administration, they were known as paramakalu. So how the kinship had been grown. First, there were some regional rulers who called themselves as kings. Ambulabe inscription in Matala district. There was a regional ruler, he called himself as Pochani Raja. So what's the meaning of Pochani Raja? King of the eastern region. And there was a cave inscription in Yatahalena temple in Kegol. And there was one regional ruler, he called himself as Duhatara Raja. Okay, right? So this is the first time that some regional rulers called themselves as king, but they were not kings, they were only regional rulers. They were calling them as king. So who was the king then? Raja means the person who worked hard to make others happy. So that is the definition for the word king. That is the definition for the word Raja. So from this, I am giving one question from one possible question. They will give you a question regarding these Gruhapatis, Gamikas and Paramakas about the leadership. Especially regarding Gamika, they have given a lot of questions in the history. From 2008 only, they were giving questions regarding Gamika. That was the most frequent question. Even the democratic features were given regarding village administration. So then we will be moving to question tude once again to discuss a question after this. Okay, I think you have finished this one writing. Okay. Cascade of tanks, Illangava, or Vav Prapatane, even we call it as Vav Prapatane. So now see some of the things. These are the Vav Prapatane or cascade of tanks. You can see here. So some of the tanks were interconnected through the canals. So now see, this is a village, hamlet. So this one is a small village and a small village tank is there. So then you see in the next slide, how these village tanks were interconnected. See, there were some village tanks, they were interconnected here. So through the canals. So this is known as Elanga. This is known as that Vav Prapatane or the cascade of tanks. See, there are big tanks and smaller tanks even. So all they were interconnected. See, even paddy fields. Okay. Right. So that's a Vav Prapatane. So this is Elanga. So here, every village was having a village leader. Out of these village leaders, the most powerful person became Parumaka. So these now see these are the tanks they constructed. So tanks were constructed according to the that slope of the land. So see the same water they were using from this tank, damming this place. They made a tank. Then paddy fields they are using water. That same water once again they are using in the next tank. So it's conservation of water and some of the cross section in Elanga. And now we'll go to question 3, possible questions, development of leadership during pre-state era. This is a possible question, but normally they are not giving questions regarding these Gruhapatis and all, but householders, Gamikas and Paramakas, we have to write. Householders in pre-state era. This is page number 7 of the question tube. By 900 BC, the rural settlements of this country had spread in many areas in the dry zone. These villages were consisted of perhaps between 5 to 6 families. I told you, in a small village, there were 5 to 6 families. In the ancient time, the word kula was used to mean a family. So what is the word used to refer a family? Kula. And chief of all these families was called Gruhapati. So even the word Gahapati had been used. So Gruhapati, Gahapati were the two names given to householders. According to an inscription found from Periyapuliyankalma in Anuradhapura, it says that a householder who was engaged in metal trade had cleaned a cave and offered it to bhikkhus. When writing answers, please give examples. Giving examples is having more advantages. Is really advantageous, you are getting more marks. You are getting more marks when you give examples. At least don't try to remember all the examples. At least one example try to remember. So then you will be okay with the marks because they are giving more marks. Without giving examples, if you write an answer that is given less marks. For the examples, they are giving marks. And the evaluators, they expect you to write more more things as well as including examples. So your answer must not be touching the surface. It should go into the answer. Then only you can get an A pass. Otherwise, you can't get an A pass. Okay, moving to the next one then. So you have to already complete the blanks only. So we will be finishing this lesson also today. Then for the rest of the things, we have to find a way. We'll see. The Gamikas were the chiefs of the ancient villages. In ancient time, one village was separated from the other by a strip of land, jungle, so that the one who acted representing each village in the affairs between villages, such as marriages, exchanging goods, and solving problems. Now, see how the things in the short note we apply for the answer. So, this is the method. So, now you compare your short note and this question answer. So, then you can easily identify later on when you read this how you can apply that information in an answer. So many of the students, they don't know how to write answers. That's why they, even though they by heart the textbook, they don't get higher passes because of that only. They have the knowledge, but they don't know how to apply them. So the best thing that not only by hearting, you have to identify how to apply the knowledge that you know. So he was named Gamika. He was selected among the Gurupattis. In the selection, the priority had been given to the wealth and possession of excess production, not possession, actually possession. R is not there. So the person who possessed the excess production only became the Gamika. The Jataka Artakatava tells us a story. So what is the story? One villager who did not receive a good harvest had borrowed a bag of paddy by a poor villager, by the village headman, in the promise of returning that in the next season when he get a good harvest. So that shows that poor people, the people who did not get a proper harvest, had depended themselves on one who got a proper harvest. So then that person became the village headman. Buddha Thero had mentioned in Samantha Pasadika that the Gamika was one who was appointed among householders themselves. His main duties were, so now once again, now here you have the responsibilities written. Here once again you are writing the duties: maintaining the village tank and distributing water, giving leadership to village affairs, solving problems in the village. So today I may be a little bit quicker and fast because I have a target to cover within 3 hours. But in a class normally we don't go this much fast. So today to cover up the target only, I just went a little bit faster. Write the note and when moving on to the next one then. Okay, then we'll be moving to the next slide then. So in this slide, you have a little bit lot to write. Okay, moving then. The evidence to show that Gamikas were working with cooperation, I told you that every example is not needed, but on and off you have to write an example. This is the example about that leaders were working cooperatively. So Situlpa inscription, according to it, 3 Gamikas, namely Shiva, Sumana and Tidana, had cleaned a cave well, offered it to monks. Now then, democratic features that can be seen in the administration of Gamika. So this question had been given once. That's why I gave you this one. The democratic features in the village administration. He must be cooperative with villagers. So cooperation is a feature of democracy. His duty was maintain peace and harmony in the village. He had to take advices from the elderly people, and that shows majority's will. So that means not he is only taking the decisions, he had to ask from a council. So then he should be he should upbring the well-being of the villagers. All they are the characteristics of democracy. So there are democratic features you can see in the administration of the Gamika, the village administration. Okay, moving to the next slide then. Paramakas. A group of chieftains called Paramakas was important regarding the development of political power. There was a relationship between the emergence of the chieftains and maintenance of ancient tanks. Once again, we are dealing with the cascade of tanks, the tank system. Small tanks in villages were used by 10 or 15 families. In annual dry period, those tanks ran dry. So that village tanks were joined using canals and made a system of tanks with an intention of conserving water. The word cascade of tanks is used to name such kind of tank system. In the dry zone, it was called as a Langava. The most powerful person among the Gamikas who acted to represent all villages of the tank system was appointed as the head of the system. This person was called by the name of Paramaka. So see how Paramagas had been emerged and who they were. All these things had been included here. So that's the answer you can give under Paramagas, right? Okay, once again, now we have to go for the short note tude. In the short note tude, we will be writing about the development of kingship, how the kingship in Sri Lanka had been developed. So that is the second question. So another two more questions we have discussed. Another two more things that we have discussed in the short note tude, and two more questions for the day. I'm not taking a long time because an online lesson should not go a very long time because many people come through data and connection problems and everything are there. But however, we'll go to the short note once again. Now, this is regarding Pandukabe, the first king in Sri Lanka. Some of the things regarding Pandukabe is there. I'm not going to explain everything because it's not the time to explain everything. So here, 3 steps of King Pandukabe in centralizing power. In Sri Lanka, when the kingship was developing, 4 people are important, 4 rulers are important, 4 kings were important. The first person, Pandukabe, he was the first king in Sri Lanka. And he had 10 uncles. They were regional rulers. In centralizing power and in getting power, he killed 8 of his uncles. So killing 8 of his uncles who were regional rulers is one of the main steps that his centralization of power. He was the first ruler who centralized power around him. And he developed Anuradha city as the capital city, including all the city components which are needed for a capital city. And demarcation of village limitations. Why? For a proper regional administration. Villages were separated, towns were separated, demarcation had been done. So at the 10th year of his coronation, okay, so that's not mentioned there, at the 10th year of his coronation. So this is what Pandukabe had done in centralizing power. The second person who just had taken the baton of developing kingship was Devanapiyatissa. So what did he do? Why he wanted this thing to be done? He did the establishment of a unitary administration. So what's the unitary administration? Entire country was ruled under one king. So that is known as unitary administration. That process had been done by King Devanapithis. Why he wanted to do that? The influence of international trade which was developing in Indian Ocean region. So he wanted to join Sri Lanka to the international trade as a powerful country. If he joined Sri Lanka to the international trade, what would happen? A huge wealth would come to the country. So that had to be controlled. And even some foreigners as traders, they may come to the country and disturb the administration. They may capture the power. They may invade the country. So from them, the country should be protected. So that's why he wanted to control wealth flow into the country and prevent invasions by foreigners. He wanted to join Sri Lanka to the international trade as a powerful country. He did that. So then what were the evidences to show that he did it? Bringing sacred pottery from Damakola Patuna. Damakola Patuna was where? That's in Jaffna. That means Jaffna region was under him. Inviting regional rulers of Khataragama and Chandanagama for the planting ceremony of the pottery. That means what? Southern side was under him. Even he planted the saplings of the sacred pottery all over the country. That means entire country was under him. So he established a unitary administration. Now see, Panduka Vedic centralizing of power around him. Devanapithisa did what? Establishment of unitary administration. Now two kings in the line, they developed the kinship in Sri Lanka. They developed the political power in Sri Lanka. So this is page number 11 of the short note. Moving on to the next one. Dutukamunu had taken the baton after that. What did he do? He strengthened the central administration. How he strengthened the central administration? He got the help of Parumakas. You know, the giant warriors like Velusumana, Nandimitra, Theraputtabaya, Pussadeva, they were the Parumakas before joining the army. The regional chieftains who were the Parumakas during the time when the power centralized became persons who held different posts after the power was centralized. So Vasabha was the last person doing what establishment of a proper administration. He divided the country into districts called Asthana and he appointed ministers. This information is given by Valipuram gold plate. It says that the northern district of Sri Lanka was the Rishigiri. Now, once again, we can move on to the next question. Only two more questions we will be discussing after this. One question is regarding the development of political power. This question had come very less time periods. That means occasions. But a possible question and a question in the collection. So then we should know the answer. If the evaluators select this question, we have to write the answer, however, and we have to know how to write that answer. Okay, I'm just moving to the question then, question 2 then. So this is the fight of Dutukamanu with Elara. So Elara is fighting with Dutukamanu. So these are the giant warriors. And this is King Dutukamanu. So he has given some post to Parumagas like cashiers and storekeepers in his central administration. And he was, according to sources, King Dutukamanu country. Right. So even different concepts of kinship also we have to learn in this institute. This is not the proper note. So then you just get an idea about these concepts of kinship. Different concepts about kinship develop according to the actions of the king. How these kings appeared in front of people. Devat means as a god. Some kings, they wanted to appear in front of people as a god. So the example is Kutakanabaya, who made the inscription in rock in Dambulla temple. In Dambulla temple inscription, he used the epithet Nareshwara to call him. Nareshwara means Nara Isara. Nara Isara means the head god, the god Ishvara for humans. Second concept is Devatva. King Mahasen was worshipped as god of minery. And Kuber was the third concept, very rich ruler. Even Parvataraja we call. Uh, Kashyapa, King Kashyapa of Sigiriya, he referred him as Parvataraja or Kuber. Alakamandadipati Maharaja, he was using this name in inscriptions. And Bodhisattva, a human who had refrained from sins. Chakravarti, a universal ruler. Nisankamala was the king who used that concept. Chakravarti, a universal king. So this is the proper note of short note, page number 12, the concept of state. What were the main responsibilities of the king? Protecting the country and its people, developing the economy, working for the upliftment of all the religions, not only Buddhism. So that's a misconception that people think that the king had to uplift Buddhism only. No, all the religions in the country had to be uplifted by the king. So they were the main three responsibilities of a king. Now, once again, I have given you the concepts of kingship. King Kutakarnabhya referred him as Nara Isera, God Ishvara for people. God Ishvara, according to Hinduism, God Ishvara was the head god. So head god was God Ishvara. So Nara Isara in that way. So King Mahasen was referred as God of Mineri by the people because of his services to the people. And Kuber was a very rich ruler. So this Kuber concept had come from India. So in India, there was a big rock citadel known as Alakamandava. So the ruler of that Alakamandava was very rich and he was Kuber. King Kashyap of Sigiriya in Sri Lanka, he also used the same concept and he used the phrase Alakapaya Maharaja, king of Alakamandava, in his inscriptions to refer him. Chakravarti, a universal king, King Nisankamala, was referred as Kalinga Chakravarti Swamin Vahanse. So that means a universal king. So this comes for MCQs and short questions very regularly. The three concepts: as a god, as a very rich ruler Kuber, as a Chakravarti, a universal king. Okay, write that note also. Now we have less things to do now. So we have to discuss two more questions, answers, and even some short notes to end the third lesson. Okay, now we can move on to the next slide then. Inheritance of kinship. There are two methods to inherit the kinship in Sri Lanka: from father to the son, father to the eldest son of the chief consort, first queen, the queen that king marries at the coronation. So her first son is given the kingship. What are the two examples? King Kavantisa gave the kingship to his elderly son, Tutugamunu, and King Vasabha gave the kingship to his son, Venkanasikatisa. Don't write this one. So then king acted as the So I'm just going to the short note then. These are the two methods of inheriting kinship: from King Kavantisa to Prince Tutugamunu, from father to the son; from King Vasabha to Prince Venkanasikatisa, from father to the son. Then brother to brother. What was brother to brother? Brother to brother means if that brother to brother means here what? That if the king is not having any sons, he had to give the kinship to his brother, so that his elder brother. So from King Dutugamana to his brother Saddhatissa, he gave the kinship, and from King Devanampitis to his brother Uttiya, Mahasiva, and Suratissa and Asela. So this time now, see, Dutugamana was having a son. He was actually the Dutugamana's son was not given kinship because he married a queen, not a queen actually, a girl belonging to lower caste. Devanampitis, actually, he did not give the kinship to his own son because he his son had been fled in fear of death to southern Sri Lanka and got the kinship. So he gave the kingdom kinship to his brothers Uttiya, Mahashiva, and Suratis and Asen. Still, we are discussing the short note tube, page number 12. Now we have to move on to that question. I think you completed this note, right? Okay, then move on to this. Still page number 12 and 13 of short note tube. Statecraft. Who was Mapurumuka? Mapurumuka was the king. To refer king, they use the name Mapurumuka. So what do you mean by Mapurumuka? Mahaparumaka. You know, Parumaka was the regional ruler. So out of these, all the regional rulers, one person became the head person. So he was known as Mapurumuka. Chief minister was known as what? Mahamatha. Royal treasurer was known as what? Badagarika. So that is royal treasurer. Officer in charge of the dining, Bathangu. So he was not the chief cook in the king's palace. He was just the person who tasted all the food items prepared for the king and see the suitability of the food for the king. So that Bathangu, right? So then Kotarugana was the officer in charge of customs and traditions. So he must be take care of customs and traditions. So he is just recalling the king about the customs and traditions. And Nagaragutika was the administrator of the city. So he was the city administrator, Nagaragutika. But there's a question like that, how many lines should we explain in explanatory questions? There's no limitation like that. Actually, if you are writing under 2 headings, like if you write 10 to 12 lines, it's enough. If you're writing under 3 headings, the 8 lines to 10 lines, it's enough, okay? Okay, right? So then other officials, Asadeka means officer in charge of the horses. Hatyadeka means officer in charge of the taskers in the palace. Natadeka, officer in charge of dramas. Rupadeka was officer in charge of the making coins. Panadeka, officer in charge of trade. Kanapedika, officer in charge of archives. Nagarabudika, architect of the city. So these things you should know for the MCQs and short questions. Another question. Yeah, 2-3 headings. If you are writing under 2 headings, only 5 marks are given. For 1 heading and the explanation, 2.5. For the heading, you are given 1 mark, and for the explanation, 1.5. And if you're writing under 3 headings, for the heading 1 mark and for the explanation 1 mark. Like that, you can you just have to write. So, but the main thing is that a lot of information you have to include. Content is the main thing. That if you don't have the content, now as an example, if you're writing like that, if you're writing about King Dutugamana, roughly he developed agriculture, he developed irrigation, he developed Buddhism. So that's actually the marks are not given. Yeah, total marks for history paper is actually out of 200 they are giving for the MCQ paper 80 marks and for the writing paper 120. Don't write any introduction, no need of writing any introductions. It's asked as a question. So at the end of the seminar, I will answer those questions, okay? Because we have to complete another two more questions. So I'm going to do that one first and answering your questions, right? So this is the next question. Development of political power under these under those four people. Page number 8 of question page. So this one, centralization of political power under King Pandukabe. According to historical sources, the first king who ruled this country was King Pandukabe. In the centralization of political power, he had killed 8 of his uncles and got the power. He selected Anuradha as his ruling center and built up the city with all the city components, marking the rural border during the 10th year after the assassination of Kinship. Was another important incident that made regional administration proper. See, we wrote in the short note only 3 things. Using those 3 things, you have made this sentence. No, sorry, paragraph. Now see, for the people who asked that question, how to write that one. So I have written 6 lines. So even you can develop this into 8 lines using that information. So even giving some of the examples. Now as an example, you just can give that who are the 2 uncles that he did not kill. He did not kill the eldest uncle because he helped him to safeguard his life. And then you can write that his wife's father, he did not kill. So like that, you can just add some things and make it expanded. So that's the method of writing that answer. No. So here I have included one question regarding these kings. So then you can see how I have given it. I have not given any introduction about the king. Okay. You don't write any introductions. For the introduction, they are not giving any marks. Only that you just write the answer targeting the point. Targeting the point only, you have to write the answer. Now see the next thing about King Devanappa is how we are writing. So we are writing in this way. One of the main reasons that influenced to emerge a need of centralizing power was the geographical location of the country. Sri Lanka was situated in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So this country was important for international trade, and even the availability of gems, tuskers, and pearls became attractive commodities. In joining the international trade, the need of working as an independent country arose, so that the country was brought into a unitary rule by King Devanappa. Now see the reasons. So wanted to control the flow of wealth to the country, wanted to prevent threats created by invaders to this country. So evidences, 3 evidences you must write here. But bringing sacred pottery from Dhammakola Patuna, inviting regional rulers of Kataragam and Chandaragam for the planting ceremony, planting the saplings of pottery throughout the country. Now see, this is what you can write about King Devanappa in the development of kingship. Yeah, explained with reference to 2 factors. Yeah, that means that these 2 headings, 2 factors. So that's why in the model answer, I have given you 2 factors or 3 factors. So that is how the question is given. Even considering 2 factors, 3 factors, 2 reasons, 3 reasons, 3 headings, everything is equal. They are asking the same thing. Yeah, you can write the evidences point wise. That's not a problem. Not now here you see in this answer I have given some point form, no, some reasons. You're asking how can I get the tunes? I think it had been uploaded to the website, right? Yeah, you have to mention inscriptions as evidences. That's important. But don't write everything. So one person is asking for the previous slide. I'm just going to show that. Okay, so then don't write everything. You can't now. In our syllabus, we have 43 inscriptions. So we can't write about all these inscriptions, right? So then you just can't remember 43 inscriptions and what they are mentioning. So what you have to do, at least one or two inscriptions, you just remember. That's enough. Yeah, you have to give examples exactly. Exactly, you have to give examples. How to write answers according to marks. So I told you how the marks are given for the heading or the factor 1 mark, for the explanation 1.5 1 mark. Yeah, it is compulsory to write evidences, otherwise no marks are given. Okay, so this one once again. No, the kinship had started during during historic era. Yeah, some says map marking is the hardest. Yes, I know that. So we'll try to have a solution by discussing with Hilmi sir once again. Yeah, how much time can we spend in answering a question? That's a good question. To write one heading, only 7.5 minutes you have to spend. To write one question, 15 minutes you have to spend. 35 minutes only for an entire question. So you just have to be keen on the time period. After writing, that means only 35, within 35 minutes, you have to write the answer and go for the next question, even though you finished it or not. Yeah, you have to write as a paragraph, like a paragraph. MCQs actually 1 hour is given, 1 hour is not needed. 30 minutes you can write. Okay, there are some questions that I can't answer this time. We'll see later on. Okay. Now we'll move on to the next slide. Strengthening central administration by whom? King Dutugamunu. So he used the support of Parumakas, the army generals who extended their support to King Dutugamunu to unite the country. They were Parumakas before joining the army. Velusumana, Nandimitra, Theraputtave, Pustadeva. They were in inscriptions. They were mentioned as the Parumakas before joining the army. And further, the inscriptions provide us information about the cashiers and storekeepers who held the post of Parumagas earlier. An establishment of an organized administrative structure by Vasaba. These things we wrote in the short note. Now just you complete this blanks. You can remember that Nakadiva Nagadipa. No, kinship was started during the historic period after pre-state era. Okay, right. The paragraph be one page, no. One page, yeah. Yeah, if you can write one page, yes, it's good. No need of studying grade 9 syllabus actually. Grade 10 and 11 syllabuses are enough. Here, this is grade 10 syllabus. The math marking is the hardest, then I will give you a solution later. Yeah, asking that if you have any shortcoming in this explanation, do we get the marks for headings? Yes, you are given the marks. For 2 headings, you are given 2 marks. For the explanation, 3 marks only, right? Okay, so once again, moving to next one. Great kings who ruled this country, Kindutu Gamonu. Exactly one person is given in the exam to write. So you have to write about King Dutugamon or King Vasava or King Vijayawada first. You check the previous past papers. Exactly one king was given to explain. Okay, so then when you are writing about one king, there are special headings that you have to use. Now this question is the next model question that we will discuss. Don't use red color pens to mark any place in the map because red color is their color. So then when sometimes they may the marks. Don't use the red color. Yeah, last time also things coming. That means world wars, world revolutions, everything comes. Don't study grade 6, 7, 8, 9 history, only 10 and 11. Now this is the method of writing essay type questions I have given you here. So these are the model questions. Yeah, what's the easiest way to study history? Use the short note. Okay, so use the short note, that's enough because in the short note, everything is included. Then you will don't feel boring. Yeah. Asking that if we finish within 35 minutes a question, we will have time to check. No, you don't. If you are writing nicely, the time will not be enough. So then you won't have any extra time within 35 minutes. Map marking problem actually I have to deal later on. Yeah, anyway, to remember without memorizing, the only method is that writing answers like this and use this guideline, these things, study only these things, that's enough. Wait a little. So here we have gone to this slide, right? Yeah, this is the slide that we have here. This time paper will not get so easy. Yeah, maybe, right? So some questions I cannot answer, right? Okay, from this one, shall we go to that question? Great rulers who rule this country. I think you can see this one. So this is how you are writing about Dutugamonu. If you are writing about Dutugamonu, this is the method that you write. King Dutugamonu did a great service to organize the political power in this country. He wanted to defeat Elara in order to. Why he wanted to defeat Elara? Capture Mahatirtha International Harbour, which earned a good income because of international trade. In the unification process, he acted according to the plans of King Kavantisa, his father. No need of neat handwriting actually, but it must be clear, okay? So then in the unification process, he acted according to the plans of King Kavantisa, his father. That's not true, but even we write in that way. King Dutugamnu was the first to provide leadership to the first organized fighting movement in the history. The statement that he made about his fight against Elara was what? That my effort is not because that I want to enjoy comfort and privileges of the kingship, but because for the benefit of Buddhism. Now this is what you have to write here. So King Dutugamnu's unification. So what is the heading here? I have not included the heading. Heading is that unification of the country. Okay, release in the, even you can write release in the country from Elara. So you can write any heading, no problem. If the heading is relevant, you are given marks. So in the marking scheme also, they are not giving any proper heading like this. So they say there are some model headings are like this. And if the student is using such heading or another heading that is relevant, give marks. You are liberal. You can write any heading relevant. Okay. Yeah, one king is exactly given. So because of that, you have to write one of these answers. Most of the times they have given Dutugamunu and they have given Vasaba also. Less times they have given Vijayabha the first. Memorizing years is not compulsory, but some years you have to memorize, like the year that Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople, like 1453. Don't write big letters, normal letters you have to use. Yeah, you can refer to the book, but not in the exam. Don't highlight any answers, just you write. Okay. Yeah, who is Parumaka? Is asking a question. Parumaka is a regional ruler, name given to a regional ruler. Yeah, I'm a paper marking person, right? Yes. Yeah, paper will be in the same standard, but the thing that they will, in marking, they will give you a relief. Yeah, how to get short notes for the chapters, we have to talk with Hildy sir, right? Okay. So now, then we see Dutugamunu's other, the next part, services. So you can write about the services of a king. But as I told you, don't write that he constructed temples, he constructed irrigation systems. No, you have to give exact answers like religious services and working for the social welfare. King Dutugamunu was a ruler who even respected his opponents. He always worked for upbringing the facilities for common people. He set arms halls at four corners of the place where Ruanvelisaya was constructed in order to give relief to poor people. He constructed many hospitals and he constructed many temples to uplift Buddhism. It's due to his great service to Mahavir. Yeah, I have not completed. Like Ruanvelisaya, Mirisavatian, Brasan Palace. So you can write those places. Mirisavatian, Ruanvelisaya, Brasan Palace. Mirisavatian, Ruanvelisaya, and Brasan Palace. Then the next person, Vasaba, the person who had come second. So regarding Dutugamunu, a question came regularly. So you see, in every year, they have given one king out of these three kings to explain. So you can just go for the past papers and see. Okay. So then Vasaba, regarding Vasaba, this is the answer. He was the first ruler of the lineage of Lambakarna. He worked hard to regulate and to organize the internal administration of the country. He could make the tax collection systematic during his time period. He started constructing large-scale irrigation systems. According to chronicles, he constructed how many large tanks? 11. Why he constructed large-scale tanks? The demand from India for Sri Lankan grains. From India, there was a demand for Sri Lankan grains because there was a famine in Krishna Tungabhadra river region of India. So that there was a demand for Sri Lankan grains. So to fulfill it, he started constructing large-scale irrigation systems using public money. So then the heading must be there. So what is the heading? Heading here you can write is what? Working to develop irrigation systems, working to develop agriculture and irrigation. So that is the heading. Then under services, you can't write other services. You have to write what? Religious services, economic services. Like that, you have to specify the service. King Vasubha constructed many Buddhist temples. More than construction, he restored decayed places in temples and renovated them. He provided necessities of monks. He made land grants to temples in order to provide opportunities to gain economic means to temples to fulfill the needs of temples. Establishment of a proper administrative structure, that also you can write. What? He established a proper administrative structure. He divided the country into districts called Asthana. He appointed ministers. According to Vallipuram gold plate, the northern district of Sri Lanka was called Nakadiva or Nagadeepa, and Minister Rishigiri was appointed to rule it. And inscriptions found from every part of the country give information about him, mentioning that his rule was spread out all over the country. So that's a model question.
Anuradha sir, can't hear your voice.
Yeah, I have given the time to write, okay?
Okay, sir. Sorry.
Yeah. Now moving to the next slide then. King Vijayabhadra the first. I told you that about King Vijayabhadra the first only. They have given the least number of times, only one time they have given a question. Remember, exactly one king is given about King Dutugamanu and Vasant. So when you're writing about Vijayabhadra the first heading should be a unification of the country once again. So he defeated Cholas and unified the country. He acted to suppress the power of Cholas through a war movement planned in a very intelligent manner. He worked hard to protect the integrity of the country, and he united the country by defeating Chola rulers through a fighting movement, took much pain to develop the country. He took a very important step to strengthen the economy by selecting Polonnaruwa as his capital. So why he selected Polonnaruwa as his capital? Because the international trade based on the western areas of India by then has been transferred to the eastern parts of the Indian Ocean. Now, earlier, why Anuradhapura became the capital? Because the international trade was centralized around the Mahatitha port. So Mahatitha port was activated. Now, Trincomalee port had been activated. So we saw that only that he selected Polonnaruwa. So his services, religious and economic services, by the time of King Vijayabhadra I getting power, many Buddhist religious places as well as irrigation systems had been destroyed. Due to the cruel rule of Cholas, he had taken many steps to restore and renovate Buddhist religious places. As well, he restored irrigation systems destroyed by Cholas. The Adams Peak was given royal patronage. He restored the road to Adams Peak. He had no time to construct anything new as he had to restore the important constructions destroyed by Cholas. Now, I think everything to write I had given in slides. Now, I know that because of today is a very busy day for the internet, and sometimes my connection will not be stable, thinking that I have given everything. So I think even at least you could see the slides and complete the notes, though my voice was not so constant sometimes. This is regarding Vijayabhadra first, and one more slide is there. He had some foreign relations to develop the country, means actually to protect the country from foreign invasions. Our country faced threats from South Indian kingdoms like Cholas and Kalinga and Pandya. So he to prevent those invasions, what did he do? He just maintained matrimonial relationships. So he married a Kalinga princess known as Tiloka Sundari to prevent the invasions from Kalinga kingdom, and even he maintained his sister Mita was married to Pandyan prince. Then Pandyan kingdom and Kalinga kingdom became friendly with Sri Lanka and they stopped invasions. So his foreign policy was really important to protect Sri Lanka from further South Indian invasions. So I think the next one, this one is the last one to prevent further South Indian invasions, right? And I think today we have to do only up to that because only my target was that discussing 2 lessons of grade 10, second and third, and discussing the target questions for O level from those 2 lessons. So here I have given you all the possible questions that may come for the second and third questions from the second and third lessons. Way of memorizing history is to the short notes, because the textbook is a long note and you can't memorize everything. So it's a tough task. Because of that, you have to go for the short notes. So that's why I just have provided that short note to you. This short note contains all the 6 lessons, actually, not the all the 6 lessons, first 6 lessons of grade 10. So, and keep it. So it's very easy for you to just revise. Even you remember, for the exam, grade 10 syllabus is the most important. For Sri Lankan history, out of 6 questions, 4 questions are based on grade 10 syllabus, 2 only from the grade 11. And world history, 50-50, 10 and 11. So even MCQs, like 30 questions come from grade 10 and only for 10 questions from 11, or like sometimes 12 questions. So grade 10 is very important. So revising grade 10 is very important. Even we have to wind up the seminar, and I'm just giving that opportunity for this. Once again, thanking Hilmi sir for giving me this opportunity for doing this seminar, as well that EduSon Institute for introducing me to such a lot of students, right? So then, Hilmi sir, I just give you the time. My work is over now.
Okay, students. Okay, I think many of you know about how to join the classes. Okay, if anyone, many students, they have sent me a message how to join the classes. Okay, I know many of you students, Baba, you would have attended my seminar and other seminars as well. I have already explained you how to download the tunes, how to join for the classes. If you don't know anything, if you have any doubts, Baba, okay, you should visit our website eduzonecollege.com. Okay, eduzonecollege.com, it's our website, Baba. EDU okay, in the link, okay, that you have clicked the link, no, so below that link, Baba, I have entered our email, what, Baba, my phone number is there and our website is there. If you have any problem, okay, if you are unable to download that tune, so if you don't know how to join the classes, okay, you can send me a message, Baba, in my WhatsApp, so I'll send you a relevant video link. I have created some video how to log into our website, how to join the classes, how to download the tunes. So those kind of details, Baba, I have created some videos. So I'll send you those videos. No issue, Baba. Okay. Okay, sir. You are finished, sir?
Yes, finish the session now.
So okay, sir. So we'll wind up the session, Baba. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so everyone, for everyone, good night and God bless.
Okay. Good night, students. Bye.
Okay, good night.
Say end the session from your side, sir.
Okay, right.
Okay.